think we're live.
You are live.
So I am here today with Desiree. She is a teen life coach at Encouraging Teens, and she is going to tell us a little about how parents can best support their teen throughout the college admissions process. So Desiree, do you want to go ahead and formally introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey there, everyone. I'm Desiree Penlilio, and I'm with Encouraging Teens. And really, what we do is we help teens achieve personal success through helping them create goals, create accountability, and through life skills coaching, and also with connecting with the people that provide the right resources for them when they're that senior in college, such as yourself. So that's one of our big things we do. And we also help parents during that process create this better relationship with their teen by creating these effective communication skills as they go through those teen years. So that's what I do. I feel like I am just part of the village of a family.
And that is so important. If you are not effectively communicating with your teen, what are you doing? How are you getting through the days, right?
Yes.
So can you tell me, how did you get started as a teen life coach?
Well, let me tell you, as every parent, we're wondering, are we doing it right or are we doing it wrong? And we were a military family, so we moved around a lot. And so I had a lot of anxiety with that. And my kids each attended 3 different high schools. And in that process, I either decided I could be that aggressive parent that bullied everyone into doing what my kids wanted, or I could switch it around and I could learn to communicate with my kids and give them the tools to create success. And so, of course, I picked the latter because I'm like, they're going to be life skills that help them throughout the rest of their life. So I went into the process of becoming a life coach. I read tons of books. My 2 daughters were my guinea pigs, and they turned out successful, so I felt that was good. And in the process, I ended up having tons of kids sitting around my kitchen table doing the exact same thing. So with that in mind, I eventually just turned it into a business because it was kind of working, and I kind of had this method that worked, and working with teens and working with parents. So it was a really great opportunity.
It's so wonderful when like the stars aligned and something that you love doing, and then you realize like there's a real need for this. And that's kind of also how I came into this niche as well. So when do you suggest families start talking about their college plans? When should you get the ball rolling with that?
I think early on. I think at the end of 8th grade, beginning of 9th grade, because really high school is that opportunity that if they think they're going to college or they think they might not go to college, you can't decide in your senior year that, yes, for sure, I'm going to college, because if you've missed those prerequisites, you're kind of in a bad place. So I think it's at the end of 8th grade, and no kid has to commit 100%. Like, all of a sudden in their junior year of high school, they decide they want to take a gap year and go do a mission trip or whatever that might be, whatever that looks like, that's fine. But if you don't keep kind of on that track, then you take away that track. So I always tell parents is leave as many options open as possible. Don't close a door till you know that you're not going to want to open it.
Right. And another good thing to point out with starting early is so many high schools have tracks for particular career pathways. And so I like to say, if you think you might be interested in the medical field at all, try out that career pathway, because no matter what, it will benefit you. You will either realize you love it and now you have some background and possibly some college credits towards it, or B, you will realize you hate it and it is not for you. And it is so much better to find that out at 15, 16 in high school than it is at 25, 26 after you've invested years and tens of thousands of dollars into this college education. So yeah, I think like 8th, 9th grade is really the sweet spot to kind of have like one serious conversation about it.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing, is having that serious conversation, but not force your kid into this is your pathway. Go, hey, so you're thinking about this. You're thinking, like you said, you think you might want to go into the medical field, whatever that looks like. Your school offers this medical course. Let's take it. Let's see what you like. You're right. It's better to find out now than after you've done 4 years and you're going to med school, and your first year of med school, you totally hate it. It's better to get some exposure early on. So I love that idea. I absolutely think it's having that conversation and parents not pushing it, but asking their teen what they think, what do they want. It's really changing it back on them and having them accept the responsibility for their education in high school.
And I think those are the keywords, having them accept the responsibility, right? They have to want it for themselves in order for it to really blossom into something for them to pursue.
Right, exactly. You can't really push them into doing it.
Right. And so I do see parents on both ends of the spectrum. Some are overly involved in the planning and preparation, while others really kind of sit back and let their teens take control of the process. Is there an optimal amount of involvement, like the sweet spot of where parents should get involved, but at the same time not too involved? What does that look like?
So I tell parents, and actually having two kids gone through the process and really evaluating where I stood in the process, I kind of took the process where I educated myself on the side without my teen about what the college process was looking like. And I was also developing this business at the same time. So it kind of went hand in hand, learning a little bit about the process and what it looks like from a parenting perspective. So I was able to do that. But then we did, for my junior and senior, we did weekly meetings. And it was way easier to have a Sunday meeting. And it's kind of like a business meeting. We all do them in the business world. And really let your teen lead the way. But have those questions because they're super important. And I think the other thing is having a college counselor, having someone like yourself, a professional, insert into that conversation, whether it's a Zoom call that all three of you have so the parents are educated, and then maybe, having the parents take the responsibility and then, share, you sharing information with the parents so they can follow through. And I feel like my part as a life coach is I just make sure the kids get the stuff done because college counselors give all these deadlines and teens are the worst at following through on deadlines. So when I work as part of that team, I'm like, have you finished that stuff? Have you written your essay? Have you submitted it back to her? Have you let her review it? Because all those deadlines creep up. And so that's, where I see my role. I'm not the college counselor. That's something that you specialize in. I'm the person that makes sure those deadlines that you're assigning get tackled.
For sure. And so, I have had teens who were like, or I've had parents who were saying, I have read the books, I have listened to the podcast, I have gone through college myself, I understand how it works, but my teen looks at me blank face and doesn't want to have a single conversation, or every conversation we have about college spirals out of control. Do you come across that often? And so what is the answer for that? Would you say having kind of that middleman take control of the conversation? Sometimes teens, you can have all of the best information, but they'll listen to it better out of someone else's mouth. Is that true?
Absolutely, they'll listen to it. And you know what it is we're not emotionally involved. And that sounds really mean because I love my teens. I work with it just like I'm sure you do. But I don't have 17 years of emotional history prancing along with the college process, right? I don't have an expectation that and trust me, I went through it with my kids. I didn't have the expectation, and really hard for me, of what I wanted their end goal to be. I wanted their end goal to be what they wanted to be and for them to be responsible for creating the success as they went through picking their college, attending a college, one's graduated college, one's in college. The experience had to be theirs so that they were accountable and they were responsible for their choice. And I also see it created better success in their college. So, as a parent, they know it's not that they don't know everything, it's just that connection, that emotional involvement. And sometimes it's what you say. So it's not that you don't have the knowledge, but sometimes as a parent, and I'm just as guilty, I'm sure, we all are, is saying it the way that is not creating tension, not creating stress, not creating strife. And so that's hard. So that's a communication skill. So again, it sounds really crazy, but I tell parents often we have our favorite hairdresser, we have our favorite dentist, we have our favorite grocery store or restaurant. Why wouldn't you, for this short time, have your favorite college counselor, have your favorite teen life coach, whatever it is, have that person part of the team that creates success. It's kind of an expert in that field, and your teen can have those conversations and you can ask those tougher questions and get the answer and have it. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and I can tell another part of what I do is helping brainstorm with the college essays or revising the essays. And I have students who are like, I do not want my parent to read my essay for one reason or another, whether it's a topic they wrote or how they wrote about it. It's personal to them. So they would rather someone completely unbiased, like you said, not emotionally involved, read it and give feedback. I've had parents who are English majors, English professors in college that are like, can you revise this essay because my child will let me look at it? And so, yeah, I think it takes a village for sure. And so what, on the opposite end of the spectrum, what advice do you have for parents who can't get their teen motivated to start looking at or applying to colleges?
Sometimes I think that's another conversation. It's why, what is the cause of that? What makes you think you don't want to go to college? Sometimes it's how it's expectations that parents have put on teens. And I know that sounds really crazy because as parents, we want the best for our kids, right? We want them to be this great, incredible success. We'd like them all to find the next, find the cure for cancer, be the next president, or be the next CEO of a company. And that just puts a lot of stress and pressure on your teen. And if your teen's not feeling that, if they want it to be, you know what, I really want to be, an electrician, or I really wanted to be, there's so many options. And I think it's stopping as a parent and going, what would you like to do? What's important to you? What sparks your interest that you could do it for 4 years at college or go to a tech school if that's the pathway that they choose? Whatever their pathway is, I think, kids have become unmotivated. And I've worked with a couple of kids, and their biggest thing is that my parents are driving me to do this pathway, and that's not the pathway I want to go. So it's taking that moment to have that conversation with your kid and really listening to what pathway they want. They might go, I'm interested in the science. I'm not necessarily want to be a doctor. I think maybe I want to go into research and do biochemical research. Who knows what, and go, oh, okay. They're going to change their mind probably in college. But if you make it so that, no, the only track you can be is this track, or you're going to be a lawyer like your dad or a doctor like your mom, that pressure is overwhelming.
And for the large majority of students, they end up either changing their major, so either wasting time or money to change their major, or B, dropping out of college altogether to pursue something completely opposite of what you thought you wanted their path to be. So I think that's important to keep in mind, that if they are not in it to win it, and if the teen is not excited about this college choice or this major choice or this career path, that throughout the course of the next few years, as they do continue to grow and learn and have less expectations on them from their parents, because they can start making more of their own decisions, they at some point will realize, I don't have to take this path that my mom chose or my dad wanted or that I've been told my whole life. So that's important to keep in mind too, that what they want now may not be what they want later.
Exactly.
And then, so what advice do you have for teens who they wish their parents would give them a little room? So there are some parents who are on top of the process. And so how would a parent know when they should back down and give their teen some room to make decisions for themselves?
I think for parents of teens, it is hard, because I tell parents of teens, they're going to go to college and you're not going to live in the dorm room with them. So if you don't start giving them responsibility and accountability now, you're going to be in trouble when they get to college, because all of a sudden there's no one they're accountable with. And if you're starting in their senior year of high school, I feel like as a parent, you're kind of chasing giving them responsibility and accountability. I just share with parents, it starts early. You think about a 2-year-old. We used to find their shoes, put their shoes on, tie their shoes, pick out their clothes, do everything for them. As they get older, we let them pick out their own clothes. We let them get their own shoes. We slowly, we drop them off somewhere, we pick them up, we stay, we watch them. Eventually we drop them off, pick them up, we don't stay. We keep giving them this increased responsibility and increased accountability. And teens are no different. They need to keep having that increased responsibility and accountability as they mature, as they grow up. And parents need to let, teens, have those hurdles, have those tough moments, develop those critical thinking skills, ask the questions, and engage their teen, not just, kind of helicopter over them and push them into one direction, because that's not going to be successful in the end.
Right. And so I'd like to go back to where you said you had like your weekly business meetings, right? Can you tell me a little about how those were? Were those like strict and scheduled? Were you kind of like lackadaisical on those? Did they happen every week? How were those?
So my kids will tell you I'm very type A about certain things, and I like to know what my schedule is for the week. So I would sit there, and I'm a big paper planner. I like things visually. I'd have the planner for the week, the calendar, and we'd put in everything. We'd put in all of their stuff, what they have going on, so their events, my husband's events. We all knew what everyone was going. But as my kids started that college process, part of that family meeting was, how's that process going? It's kind of like if my husband had a business trip, or going out to sea when he was active duty. It was kind of like, so you're leaving on a certain day. What do we need to do to support, you leaving on, Tuesday morning to go out to sea? What do we need to make happen Tuesday morning? Or when we, all of that thing. So it's no different with the college experience. So you're applying to college. How's that going? What's your biggest hurdle this week? What's the biggest thing you have to accomplish this week? And if they say, oh, I'm supposed to have my college essay done, and handed, you know, by Thursday to have it reviewed, then it's really going, how do you make that happen? Because you look like your schedule is really busy. Where are we going to find that time? Now it's helping them critically think and find time, and where are they going to get that opportunity to create it without driving the boat and saying, well, Tuesday night you can't go to the movies with your friends. They have to make that choice, and they will, given the opportunity. They will when they start looking at that schedule, and they'll go, I guess I'm not going to the movie Tuesday night because I really could do the essay that night. And then go, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. Not like, well, it took you long enough. Just be like, yeah, that's a great idea. Because what we take for granted, they're learning. And that's a really big thing for parents to remember. What we take for granted in our skill set, your teen's just learning those skill sets. So give them grace to figure it out. Keep asking the questions. So that was my big thing with our Sunday meeting. Questions.
Yes, and like you said, let them feel like they're driving the boat. I like that.
They do. They have to get in the game.
Are there any parts of the college planning process that parents should make sure that they are involved in?
I think deadlines. I knew all the deadlines for the application process, and I did that. So, the Sunday before, and 2 weeks before I'd go, so remember the deadline. I just kind of was that reminder, and it was on my calendar. And so the day before the deadlines, for the Common App, I was like in it to win it. I was like, is it done? And both of my girls were like, it's done, it's turned in, I'm good. Everything was done, the grades, the essays, and then, starting to do supplemental essays for colleges that they applied to. So it was all done. So I would tell parents that it's really important to understand those deadlines, not to drive home on them every day, but as it gets closer, just make sure it's done. I'd say that is one of the big things, is just know the deadlines. Don't take over driving the train. Just keep reminding them that it's coming up. And especially if they're starting to have hurdles, if teachers aren't getting recommendations in, or the school isn't doing their part, whatever, something's not there, make sure if you have to facilitate that you jump in, not after, but before the deadlines.
Okay, great advice. Yes. I have seen, at what point should the financial conversation happen between a parent and their teens, right? I know that teens don't have a really great concept of money. So when we're looking at colleges, and they're putting colleges on kind of both sides, you have Ivy League, $100,000 annual tuition payments, down to community college, sometimes a few $1,000s a year. And to a student, it's almost like $15,000 a year to them is the same mentally as $115,000. They don't have it either way. So as long as mom and dad's footing the bill, it's hard for them to sometimes understand just the amount of money that their education is costing. So I see teens that are applying to Ivy League top dollar schools, and they're like, well, I think my parents are paying for it. And their parents are like, I'm a public school teacher and my husband's a police officer. We don't have Harvard, Yale, Stanford money. So what are our options? And I think it's really good to have that conversation at sometimes, and that conversation is often overlooked. So how should you have that conversation, and when should you have that conversation with your team?
I think when they start looking in their junior year, when they start looking at colleges, because junior year you get serious about it. You start narrowing down, you start thinking about your junior year of high school. Yeah, I do want to go to colleges. What do I want to look at? I think the financial conversation has to come in there. Part of college is a financial decision, good, bad, and ugly. I share that with parents. You need to have that conversation. There's such thing as student loans. I know, some of the Ivy Leagues, far more than me, do blind admission. So it's, they don't do income-based, and then they figure out, aid and stuff. There's all those options. So I wouldn't take a school off the table because of that, but I also would make it very well known to your son, daughter, your teen that, $15,000 at community college we can do pretty easy. You want to go to Duke University and it's $60,000 a year out of state. We're looking at student loans, and that's, and I want you to understand what a student loan is. I want you to have that, that conversation. And I don't know if that's something you do with your organization, is actually, break that down, or if that's something valuable to do. So kids understand, because you're right, 15,000, 150,000, they're kind of like, yeah, I'm not paying, I'm good. I just need my $3 to go to Starbucks. I don't really know. I think somewhere in my house there might be a money machine that we just keep withdrawing from. It seems to work out. So I think it's really having that conversation and let them know what you can afford. And if they want to go to expensive school, I think it's, explaining FAFSA to them and explain to them, this is all we can commit. This is what the government's going to ask us to commit. This, we can't do that. This is all we can give you. This is financially, this is it. And some parents, it might be nothing. Some, it might be a lot, because, we're all in different income brackets and where we're at and how many kids we have. And there's so many things going on, and kids have to understand that. So their expectations, they understand them. So, because in some schools it depends on financial aid, and I think you're probably the better resource for them applying for stuff like that and scholarships. But I think it's really an honest discussion. I tell parents it's an honest discussion. It's an honest discussion to put car payments, mortgage payments, whatever, their student loans, if they're still paying them off, everything's got to come on the table so that their teen can understand this is it. The money, there's not an unlimited supply of money.
Right, and I think so it's good to understand whether some parents have 529 plans, right? And you hope that it's enough that it will cover all of the entire degree, but then you're also not taking into account that a lot of students are also, whether they realize it or not, planning for a master's degree after that. They have this career path in mind, and at first all you picture is undergrad. So I see parents spend their whole 529 plan on a really expensive undergrad education, and then when it turns down, well, I guess I wasn't factoring in that they would need a master's. And so I think it's really good that even if you're planning on footing the bill for the entire higher education, that you do still take the cost of college into consideration, or at least make your teen think you are. I think it's great if they think they're contributing somehow. So I see parents are like, well, my son knows I'm going to pay for it, so he has zero interest in applying for scholarships. Well, he would have a lot more interest applying for scholarships had he known he would have some skin in the game, that he would have to put up that there would be something for him to have to pay, or some sort of, if you can cover college, then this money in this account instead could cover your business, your house, a car, whatever it may be in the future. And so I think that's an important part of the conversation to have as well, as if the cheaper the tuition or the more scholarships you win, the more money that we could save for the future is like a great way to put it. I think that's
cool. Yeah, no, my kids, both of them are responsible for their social lives at college. My older one, who's graduated college, and my other one that's in it, they're responsible for their social life. I'm like, between everything else, here's your money for tuition, here's housing. That's all we're committing to housing. There's a specific amount because you don't want to live on campus. This is all we're committing. The rest of it is you, so hustle up. So, my youngest had 2 jobs this summer because she wanted to have a social life, because I didn't care if she never went to the movies in college. It wasn't me. And I know that sounds really mean, and parents are like, well, that's really tough. They need to have social life. I said, they need to be responsible too. They need to understand that, our choice to help pay for college created sacrifices for us in our younger years. They need to have a little bit of a sacrifice. I said, I paid for my own college. I went to school and I worked and I paid for my own. And, so there's that difference, so I made them have skin in the game.
Yeah, and let's talk about the cost of a college social life, okay? Especially there's a considerable cost for sororities and fraternities that often goes overlooked. I mean, when you see the sorority girls walk around, every week there's an event, every week they're eating the meals together, there's a new outfit that has to match for the coordinating weekend party. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of money that has to flow through in order to foot that bill. So that's something to consider. Sororities and fraternities are a great way to be social, make friends, network, have a lot of fun. However, it does come with a price tag as well. So that's something to keep in mind. And it's great that you had that conversation to let them know, we are paying for XYZ, but you are still in charge of ABC.
Well, yeah, and I think that's really important. And I said to parents, it can be whatever you want it to be. You can say, I will give you only $100 a month for your social life. And trust me, you're right. As soon as you join a sorority, that $100 is gone like in a flash, because there's all those little formals and they need a different dress for every formal. And, my suggestion was, why don't you all in the sorority house put all your dresses up and everyone pick a different dress and wear it? And that was like, are you crazy? I'm like, all right, well then it's your bag to figure out that dress, how you're going to pay for all those, little formal dresses. And not that I don't want you to have the experience, but I'm not having the experience at the cost of, my budget.
Absolutely, for sure. So are there any other tips or anything else that you would like to mention? Anything that we didn't cover?
I think we've covered a lot of stuff. I think as a parent, don't obsess about, the colleges. Remember that your child, if they want to go to college and they apply to a number of colleges, they're going to get into the college that I really believe, after doing this for a number of years, is their best fit. They're going to go to a college, they're going to have the experience they want.
I always say, love the college that loves you back. You are gonna go where you are meant to be. Love the college that loves you back.
Absolutely. That is so important. And you're going to get out of college what you put into it. Whether, you start at the community college and transfer, whatever you put into that environment, you're going to get out. And that's also a great thing to learn, because that's what's going to happen when you go to your first job. You start your career. What you put into that first career, you're going to reap out. If you don't put anything in, you're not going to get the promotion. You're not going to move up. So it's learning that skill set of what you put in, you take out.
Yes. And so, like you said, I think the most important things you said is to help your child stay responsible and accountable. That at the end, it is their decisions and it is their future, and they will likely rebel a bit if you try to kind of like put your thumb down and make a lot of these big decisions for them. So the best thing you said is let them steer the boat, but don't be too far away.
Exactly.
So
exactly. Be the lifeboat that goes going. You are so welcome. This was a pleasure. I enjoyed it so much.
Great. And so can tell me a little bit also about like your teen life coaching. Let's talk about that real quick. What does that look like?
So I do a lot of skills coaching with teens. I do goal setting. I do study skills. I do organizational skills. I do time management skills, a lot of time management for college kids, because that's a huge learning curve for them. So I work on that a lot with them, meeting with them and making sure they get their act together there and know how that, they need to put it all in. You can't turn something in late in college because it's a 0. It's not a late fee. It's not a little take 10% off for being a week late. Professors aren't as kind as high school teachers. So I do that. I do helping them discover their values, their personal mission statements, and where they want to go. So sometimes if they're really struggling about what's next, it's a great opportunity for us to talk about what's next and what does what next look like for them.
That's great. And everyone's what next looks different. And even if two teens could have the very same dream and take two completely opposite paths in order to get there. So that's something to keep in mind too. There's no one right way to do anything or to get any degree or get any career path.
Exactly. There's many ways to get to the same goal, and what you encounter and learn makes you that stronger person. And each of us are individuals. We each have our gifts and our way of getting to where we want to go.
Yeah. So important to keep in mind. So thank you so much, Desiree. I appreciate you coming here for this conversation today. Let me see. I don't see any questions here. So this video will stay up so you can watch the replay. Let me know in the comments if you are watching the replay or if you're watching this live. And if you have any questions for Desiree or I, just tag us in the comments and we'll get back to you whenever we can. Thank you, Desiree.
Perfect. Thank you. Have a great day.